All right, guys, welcome. Welcome to the page, the YouTube channel. Where am I looking at? Here's the camera. Bow. Welcome to Freedom in the Kingdom. I'm Fit King. If you're here on accident, if you're here on purpose, welcome anyway. I'm just gonna get straight to the point. I've been on this journey since March, and I have learned a tremendous amount of information. I have had my eyes open to many different things that are going on in the world, and many different things that I have been incompetent to for the lack of reading and comprehension. And since diving into these rabbit holes, I have um, understood that just like in any other world or realm, I know I say it funny, but I'm saying REALM, realm, in this world, that you have to use your discernment, which is an invisible part of you. And I don't know about everybody else, but sometimes my discernment was off depending on um, what I was doing in my life, who I was dealing with, what I was consuming in my brain and in my mind and my body. And I don't think maybe a lot of us have this correlation that uh, the invisible part of us is what is creating this journey and in our life, regardless. So there are some foundations of things that you have to comprehend, or you'll just be asking people for questions and believe in anything that everyone says, and that's not what you want to do. You always want to do your own research in this world, um in this realm, and you always want to study to show yourself approved, not for any other human being, but so that you can stand in your square and not be told anything, or be denied of things that you know you are entitled to. So um I'll learn how to share my screen on my computer. I'm excited. So I just want to talk about trust for a little bit. I don't know if anybody knows what trust are, and because I didn't, but trust are uh, very important in this realm that we're in, right? So basically, here's how a trust is, in my understanding, how it's developed. Right, we're just draw this little triangle right here, right, and we're gonna label this, oops, trust, right? Oops, trust. Okay, this is not gonna be super detailed or like Picasso, but there, you'll get the gist of it, right? So uh here is the on the top of the trust is the executor, and we're going to go into definition of what trust is just in a second, right? And then I just want to label, here's a trustee, and then here is the beneficiary. We'll go over all of these words just a second. I'm not going to make this video super long, just want to make it short and sweet, because this is vital for you to get. If you want debts discharged and you want things to happen to you according to what the Congress have made the laws and codified the laws to protect consumers, which is you, and to provide creditors and debtors a line of stipulations to deal with each other, that so that either side isn't taken advantage of, you have to comprehend the law and the things that are the working mechanisms inside the law in the world. So these are one of them. And trust aren't always physical. In fact, it might hold physical assets, but the developing of a trust is almost always contractual. Um, since I'm sharing my screen here, look at that. It draws it right on whatever screen you're on left. Next. Uh, okay, let me stop drawing on this and then go click on here. Oh, it's still got it on the screen. It's crazy. All right, anyway, as you can see, I was already on trust. There's different types of trust, right? So, um, you have a revocable trust, an irrevocable trust, and you have a testamentary trust. Um, there are, and I'm going to share this information in the way I do, not because I'm being secretive or intrusive or anything like that. I want to encourage you guys to research what I'm saying and not just go off what I'm telling you and look up these words and these things, right? But a revocable trust, which is also known as a living trust, is a will substitute, meaning that titles of assets in the trust is transferred during the lifetime of the donor, right? And the donor is the executor or the creator of the trust, even though the benefits of the assets are not enjoyed by the beneficiary until after the death of the donor. So this is the beneficiary right here, and whatever the executor or the donor, there's many words for each of these positions, but these are the basic ones. The beneficiary doesn't enjoy what the executor puts inside the trust until after his death. And like all trusts, assets are passed on to a fiduciary that controls the assets of the beneficiary. So the trustee is also called the fiduciary. And let's just see what fiduciary means. When someone has a fiduciary duty to someone, the person with the duty must act in a way that will benefit someone else, usually financially. Okay. It's important you look up these words, guys, because these words are not the same as what we have been taught to learn. This is legalese. It may mean one word to you, and you've been taught it a different way, in one way, but it actually means something else. As the name suggests, a revocable trust can be revoked by the donor at any time during the donor's lifetime. So the difference between a revocable trust, also known as a living trust, and an irrevocable trust is that in the revocable trust, you can change things around your will. But with then irrevocable trust, everything that's implemented into the trust is not subject to change. You can't change it at all because it's irrevocable, and you have the choice to choose what kind of trust you have before you set it up. All right, so bam. So you're probably wondering like, yo, why are you talking about trust? What does that have to do with anything or anybody? What does that have to do with me and discharging debt? And I get it. All right, so I'm just going to go to this little excerpt right here, and I guess we're gonna have this little drawing that I put up here this whole time, right? So if you don't know what the Sesta KV Act of 1666 is, I encourage you to look it up and read about it. Just real briefly, the word Sesta KV in itself means an actual saying. C'est qui vit in French means he who lives. Now, a lot of people have different stipulations about this particular event and if it actually happened and if any of this stuff is real. But if you Google this is an actual act. C'est the KV Act, 1666. Now, why would this be in history if it didn't exist? In London in 1666, during the Black Plague, great fires of London, Parliament Act enacted behind closed doors and called Sesta K v. Act 1666, right? So the act debated was to basically separate the rights of men and women, meaning all men and women were declared, or actually established the rights of men and women, meaning that all men and women were declared dead, lost at sea, beyond the sea. Back then, they were operating under admiralty law, which is a type of law or jurisdiction of law, which is the law of the sea. And so everyone was lost at sea. All right. If this is your first time hearing this, congratulations, welcome. The state of London took custody of everybody in the property into a trust. The state became the trustee, husband holding all titles to the people in the property until a living man comes back to reclaim those titles so he can claim the damages. Right? When capital letters are used anywhere in the name, this always refers to a legal entity fiction, company or corporations, no exceptions. You have some examples here, John Doe or Doe Jane. So if you receive letters or statements or anything with your name written like that, or look at your birth certificate, that is a corporation. Sesta K Trust, pronounced Sesta K. Sesta K. Common term in New Zealand and Australia, and the straw man is a common term in the United States of America or Canada. So the straw man is considered the fictitious legal entity or corporation that is made up of your name in capital letters. So they are legal entity fiction created and owned by the government simply by switching your surname, which is your family name, your last name, what they call it, which was given to you before you were even born, right? That is your first name, right? So if your name is John Doe, your family name is Doe, and that would be your name before you came out of your mother's womb. So what the government did was take your surname, made it your last name, put your first name first, and it creates a whole new entity, right? But what it's supposed to be like is your surname first, which is your family name, and then your first name second, and then your middle last, which really puts a whole new spin on family first, right? But legally, we are considered to be fiction, a concept or idea expressed as a name or a symbol. A legal person has no consciousness. It's a juristic person. Ens leges, a name word written on a piece of paper. This traces back to 1666. London is an independent city-state, just like Vatican, I'm sorry. Vatican is an independent city-state, just like Washington, D.C. is an independent city-state, right? The Crown is an incorporated association. Why incorporated? It's private. The Temple Bar is in London. Every lawyer called to the bar swears allegiance to the Temple Bar. You can't get called without swearing this allegiance, right? So, the only way to reclaim your dead entity, the straw man that the Crown created, is to become the executor, see, and then collapse the called Sesta KV Trust and forgive yourself of all your debts, then remove yourself from the admiralty law that holds you in custody. When London burned, the subrogation of men's and women's rights occurred. The responsible act passed. The Sesta KV Act 1666 meant all men and women of UK were declared dead beyond the law seas. So we already read that part. The state took everybody and everyone's property into trust. The state takes control until a living man or woman comes back and claims these titles by proving they are alive, and claims of damages can be made. So I'm going to stop right here, right? I'm not going to read all this because I'm going to be saying things in between. A lot of people are following gurus or people that say they have the secret key to this, to separating yourself from this dead entity that the government has so-called created. There are so many different ways to discharge debt. There's so many different laws. and so many different ways to claim that you're not dead. And there's a lot of mix up of what to do and what not to do to even start this process. There's so many different people saying so many different things, right? This is why you always need representation when involved in legal matters, because you're dead. And the legal fiction is a construct on paper and in state in trust. When you get a bill or a summons from court, is always in capital letters, similar to tombstones in a graveyards. Capital letters signify death. They are writing to the dead. Legal fiction. A legal fiction was created when someone informed the government that there was a new vessel in town upon your birth. Um, so I'm gonna stop right there, right? Because I just want to show you this little chart right here. You are the creator and the trustee and steward over this trust. First, 100% of your labor energy will not be taxed. And two, this is your share of the planet for your learning benefit. And basically, it just shows like just a little pattern of when you're born, the birth certificate and what it does, right? The fictional person's on the live certificate of birth. You are the creator of this trust. You also are the beneficiary, and the trustee are the public officials or public servants, which are the government, the police, the judges, and things of that such. So in order to, and here's another gem for you guys, right? In order for you guys, there's two worlds to operate in this world, within this world, right? There is the private world, and then there's the public world. The public world is anything that has to do with the government is connected to it, providing you some type of service or benefit. That is public. In the private world, you own nothing but control everything, right? And in the private world, things go a little bit different, and they are based off of laws made for you to thrive as a consumer and living being, with the understanding or competence that you are representing a entity, which is again what a lot of people don't understand in this process. They try to just do things that they hear or see other people do, expect the results, not knowing maybe they have done some things in the past that separate themselves from the fictitious name, right? So in your state, there is something called a fictitious act or a fictitious registration act. Um, in my state, in Florida, it's on the Department of it's called My Florida, and you can register a fictitious name on a state level. Okay. Now, another thing I want to get across to you guys is when you're doing these forms and you're trying to get things authenticated and trying to establish yourself um, to uh, to be alive and be considered alive, you always want to do things on a state level first, then a national, or state level first, a county level first. I'm sorry, the county you're in, then a state, and then a federal level. Okay, federal being the highest. What am I doing here? I can't find what I'm looking for. Ugh, there it is. I got this stupid picture in the way. Okay. So Florida fictitious name registration. What is a fictitious name? A fictitious name is also known as doing business as, or DBA. It's different from your personal name if doing business as a sole proprietor. Hmm. Different from your personal name if doing business as a sole proprietor. Different from your entity's legal name. Wait a minute. Different from your entity's legal name if you have incorporated or otherwise formed a separate legal business name. Hmm. Different from your entity name. So they're not talking about an incorporated or separate legal business entity. Different from your entity's legal name. Why would they say that your name is an entity? Interesting. Um, The Fictitious Name Act requires any person, which by definition includes an individual as well as a business or an entity, to register their fictitious name or DBA name with the Florida Department of State prior to conducting business in Florida. So let me explain something to you guys. In this chart that I said, there's a public world and there's a private world, right? In order for you to do business or commerce in the public world, you right now are doing business in the public world under a legal entity's name, right? Which means because we have not separated or used the proper forms of identification to uh to separate ourselves, there are things like this that kind of make sense when you read them. um Requires any person, which by definition includes an individual as well as a business entity, to register their fictitious name or DBA, doing business name, with the Florida Department of State prior to conducting business in Florida. So here's the thing. A lot of us are trying to conduct business and discharge debt in our state, and we have not even done things of this nature like registering your fictitious name, which is, by the way, different from your entities. It gives you the example of what a fictitious name is. It's different from your entity's legal name if you have incorporated or otherwise formed a separate legal business entity. So they are saying that your name is a legal entity. And if your name's a legal entity, then what is your real family surname? And you, as the actual living being, what are you? What are we? Right? That means that we are operating as two different people in two different worlds, and that we need distinction. And this is the most basic way to start the process on a state level to put your county on notice that, hey, I'm registering this name, which, by the way, takes all the liability and all the debt that you incur under this name. And if there's no one there to claim it and say, we're separated, and that I control this legal entity, and that I am compelled as a consumer to reap the benefits of my legal entity discharging my debt, because that's what the United States obligated them, the incorporation obligated itself to do, then I cannot expect, and I'm going to use words that I'm going to encourage you to look up, and I'll be going through in different videos. I can't do business in the commercial world, in the public commercial world, without separating myself from my legal entity name, so that I can utilize the benefits of the business name that takes all the liability from doing commerce in the public world, without doing things to let people know first in my state that I am doing what I just explained to you guys. If you remember, in the prior article that I read before, when you get a bill or summons in the court, it's always in capital letters. Some of the tombstones and graveyards, capital letters signify death. The only way to reclaim your dead entity, straw man, that the crown created is to become the executor and then collapse the trust and forgive yourself of all your debts. Why would you have to forgive yourself for all of your debts? Because you are not the actual person. The living being is not inquiring or is not accumulating the debts your legal name is. And if you have not established your position as executor in the trust that the United States has formed, then you will play as a different position in the trust. You will play as uh you will play as um basically as a trustee. You will play as someone who is responsible for making things happen within the trust for the beneficiary. And um I'm going to show you this document right here, guys, just so you get a physical, because I'm very visual. I'm a visual person. Um, you don't want this, okay? You don't want the magistrate to be your administrator of your trust. Um, you don't want the clerk of courts to be your trustee. You don't want the bailiff to be your trustee. You don't want the prosecutor to be the beneficiary. And you don't want the officer uh, to be the witness of violation. You want it in a different way. This is how it's set up when you're born into the world. You are the executor, right? Right. And I did say earlier that you do want to be the executor, but only for a specific reason. Only for a specific reason. Why do you want to be the executor? Why do you not want to be the executor? We'll look at it this way. All right. In a trust, if the creator of the trust only administrates, the clerk of court only does what only does with what's in the trust that benefits the beneficiary, which is you. If you are the executor can change or put assets into or form a trust. So you want to have more than one trust. This is what I'm saying, guys. So I'm just gonna keep that there. I'm not gonna say go too deep into what I'm trying to explain to you. But at a certain point, you do want to be an executor, because an executor or uh is the one that gets their hands dirty. And they are the ones that uh are putting assets into your trust and um, gives you access to things that you may want to attain. Um, the most easiest way I can explain this, because I'm just trying to explain this in a way that doesn't make what I said like earlier a contradiction to itself, because I did tell you earlier that you want to become the executor, right? But you only want to become you only want to be the executor for a little bit while you're going through this process of switching from public to private, because you want to create another trust to and put the assets in the trust, and then you also want to be the beneficiary of the trust, because anything that the trustee does has to benefit you or the beneficiary of the trust. So um going back to this diagram right here, um what you really want to happen within your state trust is uh that you switch the roles around and you become the beneficiary of the trust. The executor is the prosecutor, and the trustee would be and within the court system, the bailiff, the enforcement. Um, which again, the trustee only takes orders from the executor, which the executor has to do what benefits the beneficiary within the trust, right? So, I hope this is making sense to you guys. And if it's not, feel free to hit me up. I have a Telegram chat. And I really want you guys to understand this is so freaking awesome, because once you understand basic things like trust law and contract law, the world is yours. So peace and love, everybody. Thanks for watching. Um, stay focused. Stay focused. Don't get caught up in the lies, because this is already happening and there's nothing that anyone else can do about it but to be competent enough to be ready for what's to come. Peace.